Hello, and welcome to another gentle journey on Sleepy Professor Stories. Tonight, you are invited to step into a story that is older than memory, older than language, older even than the shape of the continents as you know them now. This is not a tale of sudden breakthroughs or dramatic turning points. It is something quieter than that. It is the slow unfolding of human evolution, a patient transformation stretching across landscapes, climates, and countless generations. Imagine this not as a race, but as a peaceful walk through deep time. The ground beneath your feet shifts from dense forests to open grasslands. The air cools and warms over ages. Rain patterns change. Mountains rise and erode. And within these gentle changes, small adjustments begin to take place in living bodies. Bones reshape gradually. Spines curve a little differently. Hands learn new movements. Brains expand almost imperceptibly, as if responding to a world that is always, softly, in motion. There is no single moment when humanity appears. Instead, there is a long accumulation of subtle shifts, tiny variations passed from parent to child, generation after generation. A slightly steadier stride, a slightly more flexible thumb, a mind that holds on to experience just a bit longer. Over vast stretches of time, these small differences gather, like layers of sediment settling at the bottom of a quiet sea. As we move through this journey, we will wander gently from ancient forests where early primates once rested in branches, to open savannas where upright walking slowly emerged. We will pause beside the first simple stone tools, warm ourselves by the glow of early fires, and eventually stand at the edges of small villages where agriculture begins to take root. Each step is unhurried. Each change is patient. If these slow explorations help you rest, you're always welcome to like or subscribe in your own time, but only if it feels natural. There is no pressure here, no urgency. The story will unfold whether you choose to follow every word or simply let it drift around you like a soft evening breeze. And as you listen, allow your breathing to settle into a calm rhythm. Inhale slowly, exhale gently. There is nothing you need to memorize, nothing to achieve. You are not being tested. Your only task is to rest while this long story of transformation flows quietly in the background of your thoughts. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench. Feel the small muscles around your eyes relax, as though they too are stepping back into something ancient and steady. Human evolution is not separate from you. It is the story written into your bones, carried in your cells, whispered in the structure of your hands and the curve of your spine. And so, with no rush and no expectation, we begin this calm exploration of how small changes, repeated across unimaginable spans of time, slowly shaped the beings we are today. Let's begin. Long before cities, before language as you know it, before even the steady rhythm of upright footsteps across open land, there are forests. Vast, warm forests stretch across parts of Africa, thick with leaves and layered with sound. In these ancient canopies, early primates move carefully along branches, their fingers curved naturally around bark, their shoulders shaped for climbing. You can imagine them not as distant strangers, but as quiet relatives, resting in the filtered green light. Their eyes face forward, allowing depth perception that helps them judge the distance between one branch and the next. Their hands grasp, not with claws, but with flexible digits tipped by flat nails. These are traits shaped over millions of years of life among trees. The forest is not just a setting, It is an influence, slowly molding bodies generation after generation. Over long stretches of time, the planet's climate begins to shift. It does not happen in a single season. There is no sudden announcement. Instead, rainfall patterns gradually change. Some regions become drier, forests thin at their edges. Grasslands expand in slow motion, like a tide rolling in almost too gently to notice. Where dense canopy once provided continuous cover, open patches begin to appear. For primates adapted to life in trees, this changing landscape presents new rhythms. Some groups remain within shrinking forests. Others begin to venture across open ground, perhaps first only briefly, moving between clusters of trees. The ground feels different beneath their hands and feet. The air is more exposed. The horizon stretches wider. There is no single moment when a tree-dwelling primate becomes something new. Evolution rarely works in sharp lines. Instead, small variations already present within populations begin to matter more. Individuals who can stand a little taller to look over tall grasses may spot food or avoid danger more easily. Those with hips or spines slightly suited to upright posture may conserve energy in new ways. These differences are subtle, almost invisible at first. As forests recede and mosaics of woodland and savanna spread, natural selection gently favors traits that suit this mixed environment. Over many generations, certain anatomical features begin to shift. The pelvis gradually reshapes. The spine develops curves that balance the head above the body. Feet change, with arches forming to support walking across longer distances. None of this occurs overnight. It is a patient reworking of structure, bone by bone. You can picture early hominins moving at the forest's edge, still capable climbers, yet increasingly comfortable on the ground. Fossil evidence suggests that some of these ancestors retain curved fingers, suited for grasping branches, even as their lower bodies show adaptations for bipedal walking. It is a transitional phase, and not a clean break. Bodies carry echoes of both worlds at once. Climate continues its quiet fluctuations. Ice ages come and go over vast spans of time, locking water into glaciers and then releasing it again. These global shifts influence vegetation patterns across continents. In Africa, periods of dryness fragment habitats, isolating populations from one another. Isolation allows small genetic differences to accumulate, gradually distinguishing groups. When populations separate geographically, their evolutionary paths may drift slightly apart. Over many generations, these subtle differences can grow more pronounced. Some lineages experiment, in a sense, with different combinations of traits. Some branches of the hominin family tree eventually fade away, leaving only fossil traces embedded in sediment. It is important to remember that extinction is a common part of evolution. Most species that have ever lived are no longer here. The story of human evolution is not a straight ascent, but a branching tree full of diversity. Early hominins, such as Australopithecus, walk upright, yet retain small brain sizes compared to modern humans. They inhabit open woodlands and grasslands, foraging for plant foods and perhaps small animals. Standing upright offers certain advantages in these shifting environments. It frees the hands to carry food or tools. It raises the head, allowing better visibility over tall grasses. It may reduce the amount of direct sunlight striking the body during the hottest parts of the day. At the same time, bipedalism requires changes in musculature and balance. Knees angle inward slightly. The skull sits differently atop the spine. These are not dramatic transformations within a single lifetime. They are gradual shifts carried through reproduction, with traits passed along like quiet messages encoded in DNA. Each generation differs only slightly from the one before it. Yet over hundreds of thousands, even millions of years, these small differences accumulate into noticeable change. As you imagine this slow transition, allow yourself to relax into its pace. There is nothing you need to do. Evolution does not hurry, and neither must you. It unfolds with a patience that stretches far beyond a single lifetime. The fossil record, though incomplete, gives glimpses of these early walkers. Fragments of pelvis, pieces of femur, partial skulls, each one a clue. From the angle of a thigh bone, or the position of the opening where the spine meets the skull, scientists infer posture and movement. These bones, once alive with muscle and breath, now rest as quiet testimony to lives lived at the boundary of forest and plain. Meanwhile, hands remain remarkably versatile. Even as some hominins spend more time on the ground, their grasping ability does not disappear. The thumb, capable of touching the tips of other fingers, allows for precise manipulation. This dexterity lays groundwork for later tool use, though at this stage it may be used simply for gathering food, stripping leaves, or carrying objects. Diet also shifts gradually in response to environmental change. As forests thin, access to certain fruits may decrease. Early hominins adapt by incorporating a wider range of foods: roots, tubers, seeds. Teeth and jaws reflect these dietary adjustments, sometimes becoming more robust to handle tougher plant material. Again, change is slow and responsive, shaped by availability and necessity. Throughout all of this, the brain evolves steadily but modestly. Early hominins do not yet possess the large brains of later humans. However, even small increases in brain organization can influence behavior, social interaction, and learning. Social groups likely remain important, providing protection and shared knowledge about resources. Picture small bands moving across a patchwork landscape, resting in shade when available, scanning the horizon. Communication may consist of vocalizations and gestures more complex than those of earlier primates, though far from modern language. Cooperation improves survival, especially in open areas where vulnerability increases. And after these quiet millions of years, as bodies become more at home on the ground than in the trees, you begin to sense a subtle shift. Hands are freer, eyes scan wider distances, feet grow steadier with each step across expanding grasslands. The forests have thinned, and in their gradual retreat, they have invited a new way of moving through the world. As this chapter gently closes, you might wonder what happens when those newly freed hands begin not only to carry, but to shape. And how a simple stone held between careful fingers could mark the next quiet turning in our long unfolding story. In the quiet spaces between forest and grassland, something subtle begins to change in the way your ancestors move. It is not dramatic. There is no sudden standing ovation from nature. Instead, there is a gradual rebalancing of the body, a gentle shift in posture that unfolds across countless generations. Where once weight is distributed through 4 limbs, it now begins, slowly, to settle over 2. You can imagine an early hominin pausing at the edge of tall grasses. Rising slightly higher on the hind limbs allows a wider view of the land. This brief lift, repeated again and again over generations, begins to matter. Those whose bodies are just a little better suited to upright balance may conserve energy while scanning the horizon. They may carry food more efficiently. Small advantages, nearly invisible at first, accumulate. Inside the body, bones respond to these new patterns of movement. The pelvis, once shaped primarily for climbing, gradually shortens and broadens. This new form supports internal organs differently and provides anchor points for muscles that stabilize an upright stance. The change is not perfect at first. Early bipeds likely sway more than you would. But the direction is set. The spine, too, transforms. Instead of a simple curve suited for horizontal movement, it develops a gentle series of curves that balance the head above the hips. These curves act like springs, absorbing shock with each step. They allow the body to remain upright without constant muscular strain. Over time, this structure becomes more refined, making long-distance walking more efficient. Your ancestors' feet also begin their quiet evolution. Toes that once curled tightly around branches gradually shorten and align. The big toe shifts into a position parallel with the others, creating a stronger forward push during walking. An arch forms along the underside of the foot, functioning as both support and shock absorber. Each footprint presses into the earth with growing steadiness. With upright walking comes a new relationship to energy. Moving on two legs requires balance and coordination, yet it can be surprisingly efficient over long distances. In open landscapes where food sources are scattered, the ability to travel steadily without exhausting oneself becomes valuable. The body, shaped by countless small genetic variations, adapts to this rhythm. The head now rests atop the spine in a different way. The opening at the base of the skull, where the spinal cord passes through, gradually shifts position, aligning more centrally beneath the skull. This adjustment allows the face to look forward without strain. The eyes scan the environment from a new height, gathering information from farther away. As these changes take place, arms subtly alter their role. No longer essential for weight-bearing locomotion, they become freer to swing in balance with the legs. This natural swing helps stabilize the body while walking. Over time, shoulders retain flexibility from their arboreal past, yet they participate less in climbing and more in coordination. You may notice how no single change defines this transition. It is not simply the pelvis, or the spine, or the foot alone. It is the harmony of all these elements adjusting together. Evolution works like a quiet orchestra, each anatomical feature responding to the others. A shift in one area influences another until a new balance emerges. Fossilized tracks pressed into ancient volcanic ash provide tender evidence of this transformation. Footprints reveal arches, aligned toes, and a stride unmistakably upright. These impressions, preserved by chance, carry the weight of individuals who once walked across damp ground, unaware that their steps would echo millions of years later. As upright walking becomes more established, it shapes social life as well. Carrying objects grows easier. Food gathered in one place can be transported to another. Infants can be held against the body while moving. Cooperative behavior deepens when hands are not constantly occupied with locomotion. Breathing patterns may also shift subtly. An upright torso allows different coordination between breathing and stride compared to quadrupedal movement. Over time, the body becomes more adept at sustained walking, perhaps even at endurance running under certain conditions. The open savanna rewards persistence. Yet this new posture brings challenges. The human spine, with its curves and vertical load, becomes susceptible to strain. Knees bear more concentrated weight. Childbirth grows more complex as the pelvis balances the demands of upright walking with the passage of large-brained infants. Evolution often involves trade-offs rather than perfect solutions. Still, generation by generation, upright walking solidifies as the primary mode of movement. Young individuals learn balance from their elders, practicing steps that mirror anatomical design. Muscles strengthen along pathways shaped by inherited bone structure. Behavior and biology reinforce one another. There is something quietly profound in this shift. To stand upright is to see the horizon differently. It is to experience gravity in a new alignment. The world stretches ahead instead of simply around. Hands hang at the sides, relaxed yet ready. As you listen, allow your own posture to soften. Notice the gentle curves of your spine supporting you even now. Feel how your feet rest against the floor or beneath blankets. These structures are ancient solutions, refined over immense spans of time. There is nothing you need to adjust. Your body already carries this history effortlessly. With upright walking established, the hands are increasingly liberated for other purposes. They can grasp, lift, manipulate. The thumb's opposition to the fingers allows precision. Stones can be held more steadily. Objects can be examined, rotated, altered. And so, as this chapter settles into stillness, you may sense how a simple shift in posture quietly opens new possibilities. 2 feet planted firmly on the earth, 2 hands free before the body, a spine rising gently toward the sky. From these first upright steps, a new relationship with the world begins to take shape. One that soon will invite the careful striking of stone against stone and the earliest hints of deliberate creation. Now that the body stands more steadily upon the earth, the hands hang free in front of the world, no longer required to carry weight with every step. They swing gently at the sides as your ancestors walk across open ground, fingers relaxed yet capable. These hands still remember the branches of ancient forests, the curve of bark beneath curved digits. But they are ready for something new. The human hand is a quiet marvel of structure, long fingers guided by fine muscles, a thumb that rests opposite the others, capable of meeting them pad to pad. This opposable thumb does not appear suddenly in one dramatic moment. It is inherited from earlier primates, refined gradually, strengthened through use. But now, in this new upright posture, it finds fresh purpose. Imagine a stone lying in the grass, smooth and heavy. One of your ancestors lifts it, turns it in the light. The wrist rotates with subtle flexibility. The thumb presses against the forefinger, testing grip and angle. There is curiosity here, perhaps not in the reflective sense you know, but in a behavioral way, an exploration of what this object can do. At some point, a stone strikes another stone. The contact is sharp, unexpected. A fragment breaks away, leaving behind an edge thinner than before. This flake, freshly detached, may cut more easily than a blunt rock. Perhaps it slices into plant fibers or scrapes meat from bone. The action is simple, but its consequences ripple outward. The earliest known stone tools are modest in design. They are not symmetrical masterpieces. They are cores and flakes, produced by striking one rock against another with controlled force. Yet, even in their simplicity, they reveal intention. The maker selects a suitable stone, often one that fractures predictably, such as flint or basalt. The maker aims the strike, adjusts the grip, repeats the motion. This is not random smashing. It is a growing understanding of cause and effect. A mental map begins to form. If struck here, the stone breaks in this way. If held differently, the edge forms more cleanly. Over time, this knowledge can be observed, copied, improved. Learning becomes social. With tools, the diet broadens further. Sharp flakes allow access to meat by cutting through hide and sinew. Bones can be cracked to reach nutrient-rich marrow. Plant materials can be processed more efficiently. Energy obtained from these foods supports metabolic demands, including the gradual expansion of the brain. You may notice how this sequence unfolds gently. Upright walking frees the hands. Freed hands experiment with objects. Tools increase access to calories. Increased calories support larger brains. Larger brains enhance problem solving and memory. Each development rests upon earlier changes, like stepping stones placed carefully across a stream. The grip itself evolved subtly. The precision grip, where the thumb and fingertips meet, becomes more refined. Bones in the hand show adaptations for forceful precision tasks. Muscles at the base of the thumb strengthen. These anatomical shifts are small but significant, reinforcing behaviors that prove useful. Stone tools also alter social dynamics. When a member of a group creates a sharp edge, others may observe. Skills can be transmitted, not genetically, but culturally. This is a profound shift. Information begins to flow not only through DNA, but through demonstration and imitation. Knowledge can accumulate within a community. Picture a small group gathered near a water source. One individual strikes stone carefully, flakes scattering softly into the dust. Others watch. Perhaps they attempt the same action, adjusting their movements based on what they see. The learning is quiet, embodied. There are no spoken instructions, only observation and repetition. As tool-making becomes more consistent, tool forms grow more standardized. Over vast stretches of time, early industries emerge, recognizable by archaeologists through patterns of flaking. The shapes become more deliberate. Edges are shaped on both sides. Symmetry appears. These developments reflect not only motor skill, but planning. Planning requires holding an image of a desired outcome in the mind. To shape a stone into a specific form, one must anticipate the final shape while removing material step by step. This cognitive capacity strengthens gradually, supported by expanding neural networks. The brain reorganizes in response to both genetic inheritance and behavioral practice. There is a feedback loop here, gentle but powerful. Hands influence brain development through use. Brain development enhances manual skill. This interplay between mind and hand becomes a defining feature of human evolution. You carry this legacy even now, in the ease with which you hold a pen or tap a screen. There is no need to analyze it closely. Simply notice your own hands resting wherever they are, the curve of your fingers, the softness of your palms. Within them lies a history stretching back millions of years. Every subtle joint and tendon speaks of ancestors who shaped stone under open skies. Tools also extend the body's reach. A sharpened stone amplifies the force of a hand. A wooden shaft tipped with stone can pierce more deeply than fingers alone. Technology, in its earliest form, is an extension of anatomy. It allows the organism to interact with the environment more effectively. As this capacity grows, so too does the potential for cooperation. Hunting strategies may become more coordinated. Food sharing becomes more structured. The social fabric tightens. Communication, though still simple, likely becomes more nuanced in response to collaborative tasks. All of this unfolds across hundreds of thousands of years. There is no rush. Change proceeds in small increments. Some tool-making traditions persist for astonishing lengths of time, suggesting stability rather than constant innovation. Patience characterizes much of early technology. And through it all, natural selection continues its quiet work. Individuals better able to manipulate tools may secure more resources. Those who learn effectively from others may thrive. Gradually, behavioral flexibility becomes a hallmark of the lineage leading to modern humans. You do not need to hold all these details in your mind. Let them drift gently past you like leaves carried by a slow current. There is nothing to achieve here. Simply rest in the awareness that the shaping of stone marks a subtle turning point, not loud, not dramatic, but quietly transformative. As hands learn to shape the world, they also begin shaping one another's understanding. Skill passes from generation to generation, building a foundation for more complex behaviors. The simple strike of stone against stone opens a path toward deeper cooperation, longer childhood learning, and eventually toward minds capable of reflection. And as this chapter settles softly into stillness, you may sense how these early tools do more than cut or scrape. They light a faint spark of foresight, a glimmer of planning that will, in time, invite an even warmer glow in the darkness when controlled fire begins to gather people together at the edge of night. As hands begin to shape stone with growing confidence, something quieter unfolds inside the skull. It is not visible from the outside. No one stands taller because of it. No fur changes color. And yet, within the rounded cradle of bone, delicate tissue slowly reorganizes, cell by cell, generation by generation. The brain begins to grow, not suddenly, not dramatically, but in the soft light of deep time. If you imagine holding an early hominin's skull in your hands, you would notice its smaller volume compared to your own. Over millions of years, that space expands gradually. The increase is not constant, nor is it perfectly smooth, but the general direction is clear. From Australopithecine ancestors to later members of the genus Homo, cranial capacity rises, carrying with it new possibilities. A larger brain requires energy. It is metabolically expensive tissue. Even today, your brain consumes a disproportionate share of your body's energy, despite its modest weight. For ancient humans, supporting a growing brain means accessing reliable nutrition. The shift toward more varied diets, including nutrient-dense foods like meat and marrow, likely plays a role in fueling this expansion. But size alone is not the whole story. The internal organization of the brain becomes more intricate. The neocortex, responsible for higher-order functions such as sensory perception, language, and conscious thought, increases in relative size. Neural pathways multiply and strengthen. Communication between different brain regions grows more efficient. You might think of it as a forest of connections, where each tree represents a neuron and each branch reaches toward others. Over time, the forest thickens. Signals travel along these pathways, carrying information about the environment, about social interactions, about memory. The more connected the network becomes, the more flexible the responses. Memory deepens gently in this process. Early hominins are likely able to remember the location of water sources, the seasonal appearance of certain plants, the behaviors of predators. As cognitive capacity grows, memory extends further back, allowing individuals to anticipate patterns and adjust behavior accordingly. Experience accumulates not only within a lifetime, but across generations through teaching. Planning also emerges gradually from this expanding network. To shape a stone tool, one must envision its final form before the last strike. To coordinate a group hunt, one must anticipate the movement of both prey and companions. These acts require holding multiple pieces of information in mind simultaneously. The brain's architecture adapts to support this complexity. There is no moment when intelligence suddenly switches on. Instead, it gathers softly, like dawn spreading across a horizon. Each small enhancement in processing, each improvement in coordination builds upon what came before. Even slight increases in working memory or problem-solving ability can confer survival advantages in challenging environments. Social life plays a significant role in this transformation. A living in groups requires understanding relationships. Who is allied with whom? Who can be trusted? Who needs support? This social cognition, sometimes described as a form of emotional intelligence, places demands on the brain. Tracking social bonds may help drive neural expansion. The length of childhood begins to stretch as well. Human infants are born relatively helpless compared to many other mammals, and this pattern likely deepens as brain size increases. A prolonged period of dependency allows more time for learning. Young individuals observe elders, imitate behaviors, absorb knowledge. Culture becomes more layered. Language, in its earliest forms, may start to take shape during these long transitions. The anatomical structures necessary for complex speech, such as a lowered larynx and refined control of breath, evolve gradually. At the same time, neural circuits for processing sound and meaning become more sophisticated. Communication shifts from simple calls to more varied vocalizations. Within the skull, the frontal lobes, associated with decision-making and impulse control, expand. This development supports greater self-regulation and foresight. The ability to delay immediate gratification for longer-term gain becomes more feasible. Cooperation strengthens as individuals can restrain impulses in favor of group benefit. The brain's growth also influences perception. With enhanced visual processing and spatial awareness, early humans navigate landscapes more effectively. They remember routes, recognize subtle environmental cues, and adapt to shifting climates. The world becomes not just a place to move through, but a map to be understood. And yet, for all this complexity, the process remains quiet. There is no single generation that feels dramatically smarter than the last. Change is incremental, almost imperceptible within a single lifetime. It is only when you look across vast spans of time that the pattern becomes clear. You might pause for a moment and notice your own thoughts drifting gently as you listen. The very capacity to imagine these ancestors, to reflect on their experiences, is the result of this long evolutionary unfolding. There is nothing you need to analyze. Simply rest in the awareness that your mind is shaped by millions of years of patient refinement. As brains grow, creativity begins to stir. Tool designs diversify. Strategies become more flexible. Some hominins migrate into new environments, adapting to colder climates and varied terrains. And these movements require cognitive flexibility, the ability to solve unfamiliar problems. The enlargement of the brain also influences childbirth. As cranial size increases, the process of birth becomes more complex. The human pelvis, already adapted for upright walking, must accommodate a larger infant head. This delicate balance between locomotion and reproduction shapes anatomy in intricate ways. Neural plasticity, the brain's capacity to reorganize in response to experience, becomes a defining feature of the human lineage. Learning is not rigid, but adaptive. Each new experience leaves a subtle imprint, strengthening certain connections while pruning others. This flexibility supports innovation and cultural transmission. Over time, symbolic thought may begin to emerge. The capacity to represent objects or ideas mentally, even when they are not present, opens the door to art, ritual, and complex language. These developments do not appear overnight. They arise from the gradual layering of neural complexity. As you settle deeper into relaxation, consider how this slow brightening of intelligence resembles the gradual growth of a tree. Roots extend unseen. Branches spread year by year. Rings accumulate quietly beneath the bark. There is no urgency in this growth, only persistence. The expanding brain does not replace earlier instincts, it builds upon them. Ancient emotional circuits remain active, guiding responses to threat and reward. Higher reasoning layers atop these foundations, creating a rich, multi-layered mind. This integration allows for both rapid reactions and thoughtful reflection. And so, in the soft light of evolutionary time, intelligence accumulates, memory stretches further, planning becomes more refined, social bonds deepen. None of it arrives in a single flash. It gathers slowly, like embers glowing brighter in the dark. As this chapter comes gently to rest, you may sense how these growing minds, warmed by cooperation and strengthened by shared learning, are almost ready for a new companion in the evening. A flicker of controlled flame that will illuminate faces and lengthen the hours of thought beneath the stars. There comes a time in this long unfolding when light itself begins to change. Not the light of the sun, which still rises and sets with patient regularity, but a smaller light, a flicker, a glow that moves and breathes. For countless generations, fire exists only as something wild, sparked by lightning racing through dry grass, feared and avoided. It is heat without invitation, power without control. And then, gradually, something shifts. Somewhere along the winding path of human evolution, your ancestors begin not only to observe fire, but to approach it differently. Perhaps they carry embers from a naturally ignited blaze, protecting the fragile glow beneath ash. Perhaps they learn that certain stones struck together can produce sparks. The precise origin is still debated, but the evidence tells us that controlled fire appears early in the human story. Charred bones and blackened sediments found at ancient sites suggest that fire is used deliberately hundreds of thousands of years ago, and possibly earlier. These traces are quiet, but they speak of intention. Flames are no longer only feared. They are tended. To control fire is not to dominate it entirely. It must be fed, watched, contained. It requires attention, but in return, it offers warmth. In cooler climates or during cold nights on the savannah, that warmth makes a difference. Bodies gather closer. Heat radiates outward in a soft halo. You can imagine a small group sitting at the edge of darkness. The flames crackle gently. Sparks rise and vanish into the night. Faces are illuminated in shifting gold. Shadows dance against nearby rock or tree trunks. For the first time, perhaps, the day extends beyond sunset. Cooking begins to transform the human diet. When food is exposed to fire, it softens. Plant fibers break down. Meat becomes easier to chew and digest. Cooking increases the amount of energy the body can extract from food. Nutrients become more accessible. This efficiency supports the metabolic demands of a growing brain. There is something almost tender about this change. Teeth and jaws, once adapted for heavy chewing of raw vegetation, gradually reduce in size over evolutionary time. With softer foods, the need for massive chewing muscles diminishes. The face reshapes subtly. The body reallocates energy. Fire also changes safety. Predators that once prowled confidently in darkness may hesitate before the light and heat. A campfire creates a small zone of protection, a circle within which rest becomes more possible. Sleep grows deeper when fear lessens, even slightly, and then there is time. Before controlled fire, night falls and activity slows. Vision is limited, movement becomes risky. But with fire, light lingers. Even if dim, it allows for continued interaction. Evenings stretch gently. Within that glow, social bonds deepen. A communication may become richer in these hours. Gestures are easier to see. Vocalizations may grow more varied. Some researchers suggest that storytelling could have roots in these shared evenings, when attention turns inward and outward at once. While we cannot hear those early conversations, the setting invites imagination. There is no need to picture elaborate myths or structured tales. Even simple sharing, recounting the day's events, coordinating tomorrow's plans, strengthens group cohesion. Language, still evolving, may find fertile ground in this extended social time. Fire also influences migration. With warmth and cooked food, early humans expand into cooler regions. Adaptation becomes possible in environments that once seemed inhospitable. The glow of fire travels with them, a portable piece of sun carried into new landscapes. The act of tending a flame requires planning. Fuel must be gathered, sparks must be shielded from wind, ash must be managed. These repeated tasks reinforce foresight and cooperation. Fire becomes both tool and teacher. You may notice how this chapter glows softly rather than blazes. Fire does not erupt into human history as a single transformative explosion. It settles in gradually, its benefits accumulating quietly. Like all evolutionary changes, it weaves itself into daily life over long stretches of time. As you rest and listen, perhaps imagine the warmth of a gentle fire nearby. Not too bright, not too hot, just enough to soften the edges of the night. There is nothing you need to tend. The flame remains steady on its own. The archaeological record reveals hearths, circular arrangements of stones, concentrated layers of ash. And these are physical signs of repeated use. Fire becomes not accidental, but habitual. A place is returned to again and again. With habitual fire use comes the possibility of shaping materials in new ways. Wood can be hardened. Adhesives can be created by heating plant resins. Eventually, far in the future, fire will enable metallurgy. But even in its early stages, it expands the range of human interaction with the environment. The social implications continue to ripple outward. Sitting together in firelight may encourage face-to-face interaction, strengthening emotional awareness. The glow highlights expressions. Subtle shifts in tone and gesture become more visible. Empathy deepens. Cooking also reduces the time needed for chewing and digestion. With more efficient energy intake, individuals may have additional time for social engagement, toolmaking, and learning. Small shifts in daily rhythm accumulate. There is a rhythm to fire, gathering fuel, lighting embers, watching flames rise and fall. It mirrors the rhythm of breath. Inhale, exhale, flicker, settle. In this rhythm, early humans find a new center to their communal life. And you, lying comfortably now, carry this legacy. Your ancestors sat in circles of light, warmed by controlled flame. Their evenings stretched gently into the dark, allowing thought and connection to linger. Within those circles, cooperation strengthened. Knowledge passed quietly from one to another. As this chapter draws softly toward its close, you might sense how fire not only warms the body, but illuminates the mind. In the extended evenings, it creates something else begins to grow. A deeper curiosity about distant places, one about horizons beyond the familiar glow. And soon, guided by both expanding minds and steady flames, your ancestors will begin to walk farther still, carrying warmth into new lands beneath wide, open skies. There comes a quiet moment in the human story when the familiar landscape is no longer enough. Not because it fails, not because it disappears entirely, but because curiosity and necessity begin to lean outward. The land that once felt endless now meets a horizon that invites exploration. And so, step by steady step, your ancestors begin to move beyond the cradle of Africa. This movement is not a single grand departure. It is not one dramatic migration sweeping across continents. Instead, it is a slow expansion. Small groups follow rivers northward. Others trace coastlines where food is abundant and travel is steady. Over generations, line distances increase almost imperceptibly. Africa remains the deep origin of our species, the place where Homo sapiens first emerge. But even earlier, human relatives venture outward. Fossil and archaeological evidence shows that members of the genus Homo leave Africa long before modern humans appear, spreading into parts of Eurasia. These movements happen in waves, separated by time and circumstance. Climate plays a quiet, guiding role. Periods of warmer weather open corridors of green through regions that might otherwise be arid. Grasslands stretch across what will one day be deserts. Lakes fill, rivers swell. In these windows of opportunity, animals migrate and humans follow. You can imagine a small band walking along a valley floor, guided by the rhythm of seasons. They do not know they are crossing into what future maps will call a new continent. They are simply following food, water, and safety. The journey unfolds over lifetimes, not days. Coastlines offer another gentle pathway. The edge between land and sea provides shellfish, fish, and other reliable resources. Moving along a shoreline requires no clear destination. One simply continues where the land allows. Archaeological sites along ancient coasts suggest that early humans may have used these routes to travel considerable distances. Adaptation follows geography. As groups move into cooler climates, bodies respond over generations. Skin pigmentation shifts in relation to sunlight exposure. In regions with less intense ultraviolet radiation, lighter skin allows more efficient production of vitamin D. In equatorial regions, darker skin protects against damage from strong sun. These changes unfold gradually, shaped by natural selection. Altitude introduces different challenges. In highland environments, oxygen levels are lower. Populations living for long periods in such areas develop physiological adaptations that improve oxygen use. Blood chemistry, lung capacity, and circulation subtly adjust. The human body proves flexible within certain bounds. Cold climates demand further adjustment. In northern regions, early humans learned to use clothing more extensively, fashioning garments from animal hides. Body proportions may shift slightly over evolutionary time, with shorter limbs conserving heat more effectively in colder environments. These patterns are observable in skeletal remains. Yet through all this movement and adaptation, there remains continuity. The same basic anatomical blueprint travels outward. Upright walking, dexterous hands, expanding brains, controlled fire. These traits accompany migrating groups, providing tools for survival in varied landscapes. Genetic evidence today reveals traces of these ancient journeys. Patterns of DNA variation among modern populations reflect branching paths taken tens of thousands of years ago. Small founding groups carry only a portion of the genetic diversity present in Africa, leading to subtle differences as populations spread and sometimes become isolated. Isolation, in turn, allows distinct traits to become more common in certain regions. Not dramatic transformations, but gentle shifts in frequency. Over long periods, cultural traditions also diversify. Tool styles vary. Symbolic practices emerge in different forms. Language branches into countless variations. Migration is not always smooth. Climate fluctuates. Ice sheets expand and retreat. Sea levels rise and fall, opening and closing land bridges. At times, routes become impassable. At others, new corridors appear. The Earth itself participates in shaping the paths of human movement. There is no need to hold a map in your mind. Instead, picture footsteps across varied ground: sand, grass, rock, snow. Each step is ordinary, yet together they carry humanity across vast distances. Over thousands of years, small daily movements accumulate into continental expansion. As groups encounter new environments, innovation follows. Different plants require new processing techniques. New animals require adapted hunting strategies. Stone tools diversify in form and function. And the interplay between environment and ingenuity deepens. Occasionally, migrating Homo sapiens encounter other human relatives who have already settled in distant regions. Neanderthals in Europe and Western Asia, Denisovans in parts of Asia. These meetings are not always competitive. Genetic evidence shows interbreeding, suggesting interaction and shared ancestry. The human story becomes braided rather than linear. You might pause and feel the steady rhythm of walking in your own body even as you rest. The alignment of your spine, the structure of your hips, the arch of your foot, all shaped by ancestors who walked far beyond familiar ground. There is nothing you need to prove or achieve. Your body carries this history quietly. Migration also affects social structure. Small groups splitting and reforming create networks of related communities. Trade of materials such as stone or shells begins to occur over distances. Information travels alongside objects. Knowledge spreads. Over time, humans reach Australia, likely by crossing stretches of open water with simple watercraft. Later, they enter the Americas, perhaps via a land bridge exposed during periods of low sea level. Each expansion requires courage, adaptability, and cooperation. And yet, none of these journeys feel epic to those who take them. They are daily decisions: to follow herds, to seek better water, to escape drought. The grandeur is visible only in hindsight, when you step back and see humanity dispersed across the globe. The Earth widens, but the human story remains cohesive. Shared ancestry binds distant populations. Despite variations in appearance or custom, the underlying genetic unity of our species remains remarkably strong. We are, in evolutionary terms, a young and closely related family. As this chapter gently settles, imagine standing at the edge of a new landscape, unsure what lies beyond the next hill, yet steady in your stride. Movement has become part of who we are. Adaptation follows exploration. And in these expanding worlds, as humans meet not only new lands but other human cousins, a new chapter begins. One where separate branches of the human family share space, exchange genes, and leave traces of one another in the quiet record of our DNA. As your ancestors move steadily across widening landscapes, they do not walk alone upon the earth. The world they enter is already inhabited, not by creatures entirely unfamiliar, but by other humans. Not identical, not the same in every detail, yet close enough that if you were to stand beside them, you would recognize something shared in the gaze. Neanderthals live across parts of Europe and Western Asia, adapted to colder climates that have shaped their bodies over many generations. Their frames are sturdy, their limbs slightly shorter, conserving heat in Ice Age environments. Their skulls are elongated, with prominent brow ridges and large nasal passages that warm the cold air before it reaches the lungs. They are not primitive caricatures. They are human in ways both familiar and distinct. Farther east, Denisovans leave quieter traces. We know them mostly through fragments, a finger bone, a few teeth, genetic signatures preserved in the DNA of modern populations. Their physical appearance remains partly mysterious, yet their genetic legacy tells us they are real, living members of the human family who once shared the earth. When Homo sapiens begin to move into regions already inhabited by these relatives, encounters occur. These meetings are not fully preserved in stone or bone. We do not hear their conversations, but we see the evidence in genes. Modern humans outside of Africa carry small percentages of Neanderthal DNA. Some populations in Asia and Oceania carry Denisovan ancestry. This means that at certain points in deep time, individuals from these groups meet, form bonds, and have children together. The boundaries between species are not absolute walls, but permeable lines. You might imagine such encounters unfolding slowly. Small groups noticing smoke in the distance, footprints not quite like their own. Perhaps curiosity outweighs fear. Perhaps there is caution too. But over generations, these interactions leave traces in the genome, subtle inheritances carried forward into you. Neanderthals are skilled toolmakers. Their stone tools are carefully crafted, suited to their environments. They use fire. They hunt large animals. Evidence suggests they care for injured members of their groups, indicating social compassion. Some archaeological sites show possible symbolic behavior, the use of pigments, the placement of objects in ways that hint at meaning. The differences between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens are real but nuanced. Brain size overlaps. Both possess large cranial capacities. Some researchers propose that differences may lie more in neural organization than in sheer volume. Subtle variations in social networks, communication styles, or innovation rates may influence which groups expand more widely. Climate plays its steady role once again. As ice sheets advance and retreat, habitats shift. Resources fluctuate. Competition may arise in certain regions. Yet the story is not one solely of conflict. It is also one of exchange. Genes inherited from Neanderthals contribute to aspects of immune response in modern humans. Certain Denisovan genes appear to aid adaptation to high-altitude environments in Tibetan populations. These inherited fragments are small, but they matter. They represent ancient solutions to environmental challenges, folded into the broader human genome. You carry these braided threads within you. If your ancestry traces to Europe or Asia, you likely possess a whisper of Neanderthal DNA. If your roots extend to parts of Southeast Asia or Oceania, Denisovan fragments may rest within your cells. They are not separate stories. They are part of your own biological tapestry. It is comforting, perhaps, to realize that humanity is not a single straight line marching forward. It is a branching tree whose limbs intertwine. Some branches flourish for a time and then fade. Others merge and continue. Diversity exists within unity. Over time, Neanderthals disappear from the fossil record. The reasons remain debated. Climate instability, smaller population sizes, competition for resources, or absorption into expanding Homo sapiens populations may all play roles. Extinction in evolution is rarely simple. Denisovans too fade into silence as a distinct group. Yet they persist within the genetic memory of those who follow. Their physical forms may vanish, but their contributions endure. As you rest and listen, consider how different the world once looked. Multiple human species walking across the same valleys. Separate lineages shaped by different climates, yet capable of connection. The night sky overhead the same for all of them. There is nothing you need to sort or solve here. Let the complexity settle gently. Human identity has always been layered. It has always included variation and exchange. Archaeological discoveries continue to reshape our understanding. New fossils emerge. Ancient DNA extracted from bone fragments reveals unexpected relationships. The story remains dynamic, updated as evidence grows. Science itself mirrors evolution, adapting, refining, responding to new information. The idea that we are the sole surviving human species today is both extraordinary and humbling. For most of our history, we are one branch among several. Only relatively recently do we stand alone. This solitude carries both responsibility and mystery. Yet, even in standing alone, we are not truly separate from those who came before. Their influence lingers in our immune systems, in subtle aspects of our physiology. Their existence reminds us that humanity has always been plural. As this chapter drifts towards stillness, imagine the quiet meeting of two groups beneath a wide sky. Different faces, perhaps different tools, but shared gestures of recognition. The braiding of lineages that shapes the future. And in the long evenings that follow such encounters, as groups gather around firelight, exchanging not only genes, but knowledge, and the need for richer communication begins to deepen. A need that will soon blossom into more complex language carried on the breath between attentive minds. Long before written symbols, before carved tablets or ink pressed onto paper, there is breath. A simple exhale shaped by lips and tongue. A vibration carried through the air. In the early chapters of human evolution, communication already exists in calls, gestures, and shared glances. But over long stretches of time, something delicate begins to organize itself within these sounds. Patterns emerge, meaning settles more firmly into breath. You can imagine a small group gathered near a fire, their faces illuminated in soft gold. One individual gestures toward a distant hill. Another responds with a vocal sound that refers not just to the present moment, but to something remembered or anticipated. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, vocalizations become more consistent, more intentional. The human vocal tract undergoes gradual refinement across evolutionary time. The larynx lowers slightly compared to that of other primates, allowing for a wider range of sounds. The tongue becomes capable of precise movements within the mouth. Breath control improves, supported by neural circuits linking respiration and speech. These anatomical changes do not appear overnight. They unfold in harmony with cognitive growth. Within the brain, specialized regions become more integrated for processing language. Areas in the frontal and temporal lobes strengthen their connections, supporting the comprehension and production of complex sequences of sound. These networks do not arise fully formed. They develop slowly, shaped by both genetic inheritance and repeated social use. Gesture likely plays a foundational role. Hands that once shaped stone now shape meaning in the air. A raised palm, a pointed finger, a subtle tilt of the head. These movements carry information. Over time, vocal signals pair with gestures, reinforcing one another. Eventually, sound alone can convey what gesture once required. The transition from simple calls to structured language is not a sudden leap. It is a layering process. First, individual sounds represent objects or actions. Then, combinations of sounds begin to express relationships. Grammar, the system that organizes words into patterns, emerges gradually from repeated use within communities. You might think of language as a weaving. Each word is a thread. Alone, it has limited strength. Woven together in patterns, the threads form fabric. Early humans begin to weave sounds into increasingly intricate tapestries of meaning. Cooperation deepens as instructions become clearer. Plans grow more detailed. With language, memory extends beyond the individual. Stories can be told about events not currently visible. Knowledge about distant water sources, seasonal migrations, or dangerous terrain can be shared without direct experience. This ability to transmit abstract information strengthens group survival. Breath becomes symbol. A sound that once simply expressed emotion now points to something beyond itself. The word for fire evokes warmth even when no flame is present. The word for tomorrow gestures toward a future not yet experienced. Language allows the mind to travel through time. Inside your own skull, networks fire in coordinated patterns as you listen. The same evolutionary developments that shaped ancient speech allow you to imagine these scenes now. There is no effort required. Understanding flows naturally, built upon millions of years of neural refinement. As communication grows more nuanced, imagination expands alongside it. Myths and shared beliefs may begin to form, helping groups interpret natural phenomena. While early stories likely remain simple, the capacity to symbolize open space for ritual and art. Words provide scaffolding for complex thought. Language also strengthens social bonds. The exchange of names, the sharing of personal experiences, the comfort offered through sound. All of these deepen empathy. Emotional states can be expressed and understood with greater clarity. Cooperation becomes more intricate. The development of language may influence brain structure further. Frequent use of symbolic communication reinforces neural circuits dedicated to speech and comprehension. Children born into language-rich environments acquire speech naturally, suggesting a deep biological readiness shaped by evolutionary history. There is something profoundly intimate about spoken language. It requires proximity. Breath must travel from one body to another. In early human groups, this exchange likely occurs face to face, under open skies or beside glowing embers. Communication binds individuals into communities. Over generations, languages diverge as groups separate geographically. Unique sounds, words, and grammatical structures emerge in different regions. Diversity flourishes, yet underlying cognitive mechanisms remain shared. All human languages, now despite surface differences, draw from the same fundamental capacities. As you rest now, notice your own breathing. Each inhale and exhale carries the potential for sound. Yet there is nothing you need to say. Silence is also part of language's rhythm. Pauses give shape to meaning, just as empty space gives form to sculpture. Language does not erase earlier forms of communication. Facial expressions, posture, and gesture continue to accompany speech. The human communicative system becomes layered, voice woven with movement, sound blended with expression. Some researchers propose that music and rhythm may have intertwined with early language. Coordinated vocalizations during group activities could strengthen bonds and synchronize movement. The boundary between speech and song may once have been more fluid than it appears today. The written word, far in the future, will capture speech visually. But for most of human history, language exists only in air and memory. It is ephemeral yet powerful, shaping cooperation and identity across generations. Through language, knowledge accumulates more rapidly than through genetics alone. Cultural evolution accelerates. Innovations spread within and between groups. The human story becomes increasingly guided by shared ideas, as well as biological inheritance. And yet, even as language grows complex, it retains its origin in simple breath. A controlled exhale shaped by lips and tongue. A vibration felt in the chest. The quiet miracle of meaning carried on air. As this chapter settles gently, you might imagine those early evenings around the fire, voices rising softly into the dark, words forming slowly, unlike dawn light spreading across the horizon. And in that spreading light of shared understanding, new expressions begin to take shape, not only in sound, but in image and symbol, as hands soon turn from shaping tools to tracing stories upon stone. Long after language begins to ripple through the air in soft patterns of sound, another form of expression slowly takes shape in quieter places. Deep within caves, beneath overhanging rock shelters, along walls smoothed by time, hands begin to leave marks. Not accidental scratches, not simple stains, intentional traces of an inner world pressing outward. You can imagine stepping into one of these ancient spaces. The air feels cooler. Light flickers against stone from a small, steady fire. Shadows stretch and contract as flames breathe. The cave walls curve gently around you, silent and patient. And there, upon their surface, you see color. Pigments are gathered from the earth itself. Ochre, rich with iron, ground into powder. Charcoal from burned wood, dark and soft. Sometimes manganese or other minerals lend deeper tones. These substances are mixed with water, saliva, or animal fat to create a paste that clings to stone. The materials are simple, but the gesture is profound. A hand presses against the wall. Pigment is blown or brushed around it. When the hand pulls away, a silhouette remains, a negative space marking presence. This outline does not hunt or build or cook. It simply declares quietly, "I was here." These hand stencils appear in caves across continents, separated by thousands of years. They are among the earliest known forms of symbolic expression. The shape is unmistakably human, and the fingers spread, the palm open. It is both intimate and universal. Beyond hands, animals begin to take form upon stone. Bison with curved horns, horses with flowing manes, deer mid-stride. The lines are often dynamic, capturing motion and life. In some caves, the placement of images follows the natural contours of the rock, using bulges and shadows to suggest depth. Art in these early contexts is not mere decoration. It requires preparation. Pigments must be gathered and carried. Light must be maintained in dark chambers. The act itself consumes time and energy. That investment suggests meaning beyond practicality. Some researchers propose that these images play roles in ritual or belief systems. Others suggest they may be linked to storytelling or teaching. While interpretations vary, the consistent thread is intentional symbolism. The mind, capable of language, now extends its reach into visual representation. You might consider how this shift reflects cognitive development. To depict an animal not physically present requires mental imagery. The artist holds the creature in memory, reconstructs its shape, and transfers that image onto stone. This act reveals an advanced capacity for abstraction. Art also strengthens social cohesion. Shared symbols create shared identity. A group that recognizes its own markings within a cave may feel a sense of belonging. Meaning is woven not only through sound, but through image. As you rest and listen, imagine the soft scrape of pigment against rock, the careful outline drawn in flickering light. There is no hurry in the motion. Each line is deliberate, each mark part of a larger intention. Caves themselves may amplify the experience. Some chambers possess acoustics that echo softly, turning whispered voices into resonant tones. The interplay between sound and image might enhance emotional impact. The environment participates in the expression. Over time, artistic techniques become more sophisticated. Shading appears. Perspective deepens. Engravings accompany paintings. Tools are used to carve into stone as well as color it. The creative impulse grows layered. These early artworks also offer glimpses into daily life. Many images depict animals central to survival. Hunting scenes, though rare in some regions, suggest narratives of cooperation and risk. The act of representation may serve both practical and spiritual purposes. There is something deeply human in this desire to externalize thought. The inner world, memories, our fears, hopes, find surface beyond the body. The cave wall becomes a canvas for collective imagination. Archaeological evidence indicates that such artistic behavior stretches back tens of thousands of years, possibly even longer. Some discoveries suggest that Neanderthals may also have created symbolic marks. If so, the impulse toward art may not belong exclusively to Homo sapiens, but to the broader human family. This continuity reinforces the braided nature of our story. Symbolism arises from shared cognitive roots. The capacity to create meaning through image transcends individual lineages. As pigment touches stone, the boundary between inner and outer softens. Thought leaves trace. Emotion gains shape. The cave becomes not only shelter, but gallery. You may notice how art mirrors language in certain ways. Both rely on symbols. Both allow communication across time. A painted bison remains visible long after its creator is gone, much as a spoken story echoes in memory. There is no need to analyze each image. Let them appear softly in your mind's eye, lines emerging from darkness, colors glowing faintly in firelight, the presence of hands, of animals, of patterns that speak without words. Art also suggests foresight. The creator anticipates that others will see and interpret the mark. This awareness of audience reflects sophisticated social cognition. It implies a shared framework of understanding. As communities grow and spread, artistic styles diversify. Different regions develop distinctive motifs. Cultural identity becomes visible in pattern and technique. Diversity flourishes within unity. And through all of this, the act remains simple at its core. A hand, a wall, a pigment drawn from earth, an image shaped with care. As this chapter drifts towards stillness, imagine the last ember fading in a cave long ago. The painted animals remain, waiting quietly through millennia. Their silence carries the echo of minds reaching outward. And in that outward reach, beyond image and sound, something larger begins to gather. Traditions, rituals, shared customs. As the subtle rise of culture prepares to weave individual lives into something even more intricate. As images begin to bloom upon cave walls and language carries thought across the air, another transformation unfolds. Quieter than fire, steadier than migration, yet just as profound. Culture begins to gather like mist in the valleys of human life. It is not a single invention. It is an accumulation, a layering of habits, tools, meanings, and shared understandings that gently shape how you belong to one another. At first, culture is almost indistinguishable from survival. Tools diversify not in a rush of innovation, but in response to specific needs. Stone points become thinner and more precise. Scrapers take on distinct shapes for processing hides. Needles fashioned from bone allow the stitching of fitted clothing. Each refinement reflects observation, memory, and practice. Clothing itself becomes more than protection. In colder regions, layered garments made from animal skins enable longer habitation in freezing climates. The act of sewing requires dexterity and patience. It also suggests foresight, preparing for seasons not yet arrived. The body is no longer shaped solely by environment. It is shielded and expressed through crafted materials. But adornment appears quietly as well. Shell beads, perforated teeth, carved pendants, small objects worn close to the body. These items may signal identity, affiliation, or status within a group. They are not necessary for survival in a strict biological sense, yet they carry meaning. Meaning becomes a resource in its own right. Ritual emerges from repetition. Certain actions performed together. Burial practices, seasonal gatherings, shared meals begin to hold symbolic weight. The careful placement of bodies in graves, sometimes accompanied by objects, suggests beliefs about life and death. Even if we cannot know the precise thoughts behind these practices, the intention is evident. Knowledge passes not only through imitation, but through teaching. Elders demonstrate tool-making techniques to younger members. Yet stories convey lessons about landscape and behavior. The extended childhood characteristic of humans provides time for absorbing these traditions. Learning becomes structured, though informally. As culture accumulates, it begins to outpace biological evolution in shaping daily life. A new tool style can spread through a population in a few generations. A new hunting strategy can alter survival patterns more rapidly than genetic change alone. Culture acts as a second inheritance system, layered atop DNA. You might think of it as a river running alongside biology. Genes provide the channel, culture flows within it, shaping and reshaping the terrain. The two influence one another continuously. For example, the domestication of animals later leads to dietary shifts that affect genetic adaptations, such as lactose tolerance in certain populations. Social norms develop gradually. Expectations about cooperation, sharing, and behavior solidify. These norms are not written down. They are felt, reinforced through approval and disapproval. Belonging becomes intertwined with adherence to shared customs. Identity grows layered. You are not only an individual organism, but a member of a group with specific practices and symbols. This sense of collective identity strengthens cohesion. Groups with strong internal bonds may coordinate more effectively, enhancing survival. Trade networks begin to stretch across distances. Materials such as obsidian or seashells appear far from their sources, indicating exchange between groups. These interactions spread ideas as well as objects. Culture becomes dynamic, influenced by contact and adaptation. Music and dance likely accompany these developments. Rhythmic movement and coordinated sound reinforce unity. Shared emotional experiences deepen connection. Though the archaeological record preserves only hints, the universality of music across human societies suggests deep evolutionary roots. The concept of tradition crystallizes slowly. Certain practices persist across generations, not because they are immediately practical, but because they carry shared memory. A particular carving style, a recurring motif, a specific method of preparing food, these become markers of continuity. As you listen now, you participate in culture. Language itself is a cultural inheritance shaped by countless speakers before you. There is no effort required. The patterns flow naturally, embedded in your neural pathways. Culture also introduces complexity. Differences between groups can lead to misunderstanding or competition, yet they can also foster creativity. Exposure to diverse practices may inspire innovation. The interplay between unity and variation becomes a defining feature of humanity. Over time, settlements grow more stable in certain regions. Semi-permanent camps allow accumulation of tools and materials. Social roles may differentiate, some individuals specializing in particular tasks. Specialization increases efficiency, but also deepens interdependence. Memory becomes collective. Stories recount shared origins, explain natural phenomena, reinforce moral codes. These narratives bind individuals into a shared timeline, extending beyond a single lifetime. The past becomes a guide for the present. Ritual spaces may emerge, areas designated for gatherings, ceremonies, or artistic expression. These locations anchor community identity. They become physical manifestations of shared belief. Through all this, the rise of culture remains subtle. There is no singular moment when humanity declares itself cultural. Instead, each small practice adds texture. Each shared symbol deepens meaning. You may feel a gentle warmth in recognizing this layered inheritance. Your gestures, your language, your customs, all are threads woven by ancestors you will never meet. There is nothing you need to memorize. Culture carries itself forward through participation. As cultural patterns solidify, they begin to influence how humans interact with the land. Practices of resource management, seasonal movement, and environmental modification grow more intentional. The seeds of agriculture are not yet planted, but the groundwork of cooperation and knowledge sharing is firmly in place. And so, as this chapter settles softly, you might imagine a group gathered not only around firelight, but within a web of shared meanings. Tools arranged with purpose, clothing stitched with care, rituals performed beneath open sky. In that gentle web of tradition and identity, a new possibility begins to stir. The idea of shaping the earth itself more permanently, of settling beside rivers and coaxing plants to grow in chosen places. For most of human history, your ancestors move with the seasons. They follow migrating animals, gather ripening fruits, and adapt to the shifting availability of food. The rhythm of life is guided by landscape and climate. But over time, in several regions of the world, something subtle begins to change. The relationship between humans and plants grows more intentional. It does not begin as farming in the way you might picture it now. It begins with observation. Certain grasses produce seeds that are filling and nourishing. Some plants grow more abundantly near campsites where seeds have fallen. Over generations, people begin to notice patterns. If seeds are scattered deliberately near water or fertile soil, new plants emerge in predictable places. This is not yet agriculture as a rigid system. It is experimentation, a gentle partnership between human intention and natural growth. Slowly, certain plant species begin to change under human influence. Seeds from plants that are easier to harvest are gathered more often. Over time, traits that favor human use become more common. Wheat and barley in parts of the Near East, rice in East Asia, maize in the Americas. Each region cultivates different species based on local ecology. These processes unfold independently, shaped by unique climates and cultural practices. Domestication is not a single invention, but a repeated discovery. As plant cultivation becomes more reliable, the need for constant movement lessens. Groups begin to remain longer in one place, especially near rivers where soil is fertile and water abundant. Settlements form gradually, clusters of dwellings built from mud, stone, or wood. The landscape itself begins to bear the imprint of human presence. Living in one place changes daily rhythms. Storage becomes important. Surplus grain must be protected from pests and moisture. Clay containers are fashioned, leading to advances in pottery. Architecture grows more deliberate, with walls and roofs designed for permanence. Animals, too, enter into new relationships with humans. Some species are domesticated, selectively bred for traits that make them manageable and useful. Sheep, goats, cattle, and pigs become companions in a shared environment. They provide meat, milk, hides, and labor. Domesticated animals reshape time. Herds must be tended daily. Fields must be planted and harvested according to seasonal cycles. The calendar grows more structured. Observation of the sun and stars becomes tied to agricultural timing. Knowledge of seasons becomes essential. You might imagine a quiet morning beside a riverbank settlement. The sun rises over fields of cultivated grain. Smoke drifts from cooking fires. Children carry water. Adults inspect crops. The pace feels different from the wandering life of foragers. More rooted, more predictable. Agriculture supports larger populations. With stable food sources, communities grow in size. Villages expand into towns. Social structures become more complex. Roles differentiate further. Some individuals focus on farming, others on tool making, weaving, or trade. Yet this shift is not without cost. Reliance on a limited number of crops can make communities vulnerable to drought or disease. Close living quarters facilitate the spread of illness, especially as humans live alongside domesticated animals. The human immune system faces new challenges. Over time, genetic adaptations respond to these pressures. In some populations, the ability to digest lactose into adulthood becomes more common, linked to dairy consumption. Resistance to certain pathogens increases where exposure is frequent. The interplay between culture and biology continues. Agriculture also transforms the landscape itself. Forests are cleared, irrigation channels are dug, soil is managed. Humans begin to modify ecosystems more extensively than before. The environment becomes increasingly shaped by human intention. Trade networks expand as surplus goods are exchanged. Grains, textiles, tools, and pottery move between settlements. Cultural ideas travel alongside material objects. Innovation accelerates through contact. As communities grow, social hierarchies may emerge. Leadership roles formalize. Ritual practices become more elaborate. Collective projects such as building storage facilities or defensive structures require coordinated effort. The pace of change gently quickens. While earlier evolutionary transformations unfold over millennia, cultural shifts now occur within centuries or even generations. Written language, still far in the future at this point in our journey, will eventually emerge from the need to record transactions and store information. Yet, at its heart, agriculture remains rooted in something simple: the act of placing a seed into soil and waiting. Patience remains essential. The earth still dictates growth cycles. Humans cooperate with natural processes rather than replacing them entirely. As you rest now, imagine the quiet tending of a field, hands pressing seeds into soft ground, the expectation of rain, the slow unfurling of green shoots under sunlight. There is nothing urgent in this image. Growth follows its own timing. The agricultural dawn marks a profound turning point, but it does not erase what came before. Hunting and gathering continue alongside farming for long periods. Knowledge of wild plants and animals remains valuable. Human identity becomes layered, part forager, part cultivator. Over generations, agricultural practices refine. Crop rotation improves soil health. Selective breeding enhances yields. Tools evolve to assist plowing and harvesting. The relationship between humans and land deepens into something ongoing and reciprocal. And so, as this chapter draws gently to a close, you may sense how planting seeds changes not only landscapes, but minds. Settled life encourages record-keeping, shared planning, and increasingly complex social organization. In the quiet hum of early villages, surrounded by fields and livestock, new questions begin to stir. Questions about ancestry, inheritance, and the deep roots of identity, leading us next toward the scientific tools that will one day uncover the genetic threads connecting all of humanity across time. Long after the first footprints fade and the last embers of ancient fires cool into ash, the Earth continues to hold its quiet archive. Beneath layers of sediment, within caves and riverbanks, fragments remain. A curved femur, a partial jaw, the delicate arc of a brow ridge. These bones are not merely remnants of bodies. They are records, shaped by life, preserved by chance. When a creature dies, most traces vanish quickly. Soft tissues decay. Weather and scavengers erase evidence. Yet, under rare conditions, bone endures. Buried in fine sediment, shielded from erosion, it can rest for thousands, even millions of years. Over time, minerals seep into porous spaces, slowly turning bone into stone. Fossilization is patient work. You might imagine an ancient landscape slowly shifting above such remains. Rivers change course, layers of soil accumulate, mountains rise and erode, and deep beneath, a skull waits silently, its shape unchanged, though its substance transformed. When paleontologists uncover such fossils, they handle them with care. Each fragment offers clues about posture, diet, and lineage. The angle of a femur reveals patterns of walking. The wear on teeth suggests the types of food consumed. The volume of a cranial cavity hints at brain size. From these pieces, scientists reconstruct lives long past. The fossil record is incomplete. It preserves only a fraction of all who lived. Yet even this fraction reveals patterns. Transitional forms appear, bridging traits between earlier and later hominins. Variation within species becomes visible. Evolution, once debated in theory, stands embodied in stone. In more recent decades, another archive begins to speak, one hidden not in rock, but in molecules. DNA, the chemical code within cells, carries instructions passed from parent to child. Under certain conditions, fragments of ancient DNA survive within bones and teeth. Though fragile, these molecules retain sequences that can be compared to those of living humans. Extracting ancient DNA requires extraordinary care. Laboratories designed to prevent contamination isolate samples. Even tiny fragments can reveal profound information. By comparing genetic sequences, scientists trace relationships between populations separated by vast stretches of time and geography. Through this molecular lens, the story of interbreeding between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals becomes visible. Denisovan ancestry appears in unexpected regions. Migration routes are inferred not only from artifacts, but from shared genetic markers. You carry within your own cells this ancient code. Every time a cell divides, DNA replicates with remarkable fidelity, though occasional mutations occur. These small changes accumulate over generations, serving as timestamps. By measuring the rate of genetic variation, researchers estimate when lineages diverged. Genes also preserve evidence of adaptation. Variants associated with skin pigmentation, altitude tolerance, or immune response can be traced to specific environmental pressures. The genome becomes a map of challenges faced and solutions found. Bones and genes complement one another. Fossils show physical form, DNA reveals invisible connections. Together, they allow modern science to reconstruct chapters of human evolution with increasing clarity. Radiometric dating techniques measure the decay of unstable isotopes within rocks and organic remains. By calculating predictable decay rates, scientists determine approximate ages of fossils and artifacts. Time, once immeasurable in deep prehistory, becomes quantifiable. Yet, for all this precision, humility remains essential. New discoveries can reshape understanding. A single fossil find may extend the known range of a species. A new genetic analysis may revise migration timelines. The narrative of human evolution continues to evolve. As you listen now, imagine a researcher brushing soil gently from a fossilized bone. The motion is slow, reverent. Each fragment is treated as a message from the past. There is no rush. The work unfolds carefully, guided by curiosity and respect. The integration of disciplines strengthens the mosaic. Archaeology uncovers tools and hearths. Paleoanthropology studies skeletal remains. Genetics deciphers molecular clues. Geology provides context through stratigraphy. Together, they weave a multi-layered understanding. There is something poetic about this collaboration across time. Modern minds, shaped by millions of years of evolution, now turn inward to study their own origins. The story circles back upon itself. You do not need to grasp every technical detail. Let the image settle gently. Bones resting beneath earth, genes resting within cells, both holding fragments of memory. The past is not lost. It whispers through matter. Even so, many questions remain open. Gaps persist in the fossil record. Genetic data sometimes contradict archaeological interpretations. Uncertainty is not failure, it is invitation. Science advances by refining its models as new evidence appears. As tools for analysis grow more sophisticated, resolution improves. High-throughput sequencing reveals finer genetic patterns. Imaging technologies allow non-destructive study of fragile fossils. Each advancement adds texture to the portrait of humanity. And through all of this, the central truth remains steady. You are part of a lineage stretching back millions of years. Your bones echo ancient forms. Your genes carry ancestral signatures. The past is present within you, quietly. As this chapter drifts toward its close, imagine the mosaic of human evolution not as a finished picture, but as an expanding one. New pieces continue to emerge from soil and cell alike. And in that expanding image, you begin to sense that evolution is not confined to the distant past. It continues subtly, even now, shaping bodies and cultures in ways still unfolding, inviting us gently into the realization that we are, and always have been, a species still becoming. When you think of evolution, it is easy to imagine something distant. Ancient forests, stone tools, ice age winds sweeping across open plains. It can feel like a story that has already finished, neatly archived in the fossil beds and genetic charts. But evolution is not a closed chapter. It is not something that stopped when cities rose or when writing began. It continues quietly, even now, in ways both subtle and profound. The forces that shaped your ancestors, mutation, natural selection, genetic drift, migration, have not vanished. They operate more slowly than the pace of modern life, but they remain steady. Every time DNA is copied from parent to child, small variations can arise. Most of these changes are neutral. Some disappear, a few persist. You carry within you countless mutations that distinguish you from your parents, just as they differ slightly from theirs. These tiny variations are the raw material of evolution. Most will never influence survival or reproduction in noticeable ways. But occasionally, in certain environments, a variation proves beneficial. Consider how human populations continue to adapt to specific conditions. In regions where malaria is historically prevalent, certain genetic traits that confer resistance have become more common over generations. In high-altitude communities, physiological differences allow more efficient oxygen use. These adaptations are recent in evolutionary terms, unfolding within the last several thousand years. Diet also influences biology. In some populations with long histories of dairy consumption, the ability to digest lactose into adulthood remains widespread. This trait evolves through cultural practices interacting with genetic inheritance. The line between biology and culture becomes intertwined. Urban living introduces new pressures. Crowded environments affect patterns of disease transmission. Access to varied food sources influences metabolism. Even the light from screens and artificial illumination may subtly alter sleep patterns and circadian rhythms, though these effects are cultural rather than genetic, at least for now. Yet evolution is not only biological. Cultural evolution accelerates change in ways genetic processes cannot match. Technologies emerge and spread within decades. Ideas travel instantly across continents. Language shifts within generations. Culture reshapes behavior at remarkable speed. You might think of cultural evolution as a swift current flowing atop the deeper river of biology. The riverbed changes slowly, shaped by gradual erosion. The surface water, by contrast, moves swiftly, carrying new patterns downstream. Both are part of the same system. Medical advances alter selective pressures in profound ways. Conditions that once limited survival are now treatable. Infant mortality rates decline in many parts of the world. Individuals who might not have survived in earlier eras now live long, full lives. This changes the context in which natural selection operates. Global travel increases gene flow between populations that were once more isolated. Intermarriage across continents blends genetic lineages further, reinforcing the unity of humanity. The braided patterns seen in ancient DNA continue in modern times. Even social behaviors may influence evolutionary trajectories. Preferences, norms, and cultural values affect patterns of reproduction. The traits that become common within populations are shaped not only by environment, but by social context. At the same time, the human capacity for intentional modification grows. Technologies such as gene editing introduce the possibility of direct intervention in our own biology. While these tools are still carefully regulated and ethically debated, they represent a new layer of complexity in the evolutionary story. Yet beneath these modern developments, the fundamental truth remains simple. You are an organism shaped by deep time, participating in processes that began long before you were born and will continue long after. There is no need to rush this understanding. It unfolds quietly. As you lie comfortably, consider how your body adapts even within your lifetime. Muscles strengthen with use. Neural connections reorganize through learning. Your immune system responds to new exposures. These changes are not evolutionary in the strict genetic sense, but they reflect the body's ongoing capacity for adaptation. Evolution does not aim toward perfection. It responds to circumstance. Traits persist when they prove advantageous in specific contexts. When environments change, so do the pressures shaping populations. Humanity remains embedded within ecological systems, subject to climate, resources, and global dynamics. Climate change, for instance, may influence future evolutionary paths. Shifting temperatures, altered food availability, and new disease patterns could shape which traits become more or less common over time. The pace of cultural change may buffer or amplify these effects. There is something humbling in recognizing that the story is unfinished. We are not the end point of evolution, but a moment within it. Our technologies, our cities, our languages, all are recent additions to a vast timeline. And yet, within that vastness, your life matters. Each person contributes to the ongoing flow of genes and ideas. Each generation shapes the conditions for the next. Evolution is not only about physical form, it is about relationships, cooperation, creativity. You do not need to carry the weight of that realization. Let it settle gently. The process unfolds whether you observe it closely or not. There is nothing you need to solve tonight. As this chapter softens toward its close, imagine humanity not as a fixed statue carved in stone, but as a living tree still growing. New branches extend, leaves unfurl, some twigs wither, others strengthen. And as you drift closer to sleep, you might sense how this ever-growing tree stretches backward into deep time and forward into possibilities yet unseen, reminding us that in the long, quiet arc of existence, we are both ancient and new, roots grounded in the past, branches reaching softly into tomorrow. When you step back from the details, from the bones and tools, from firelight and footprints, the story of human evolution begins to feel less like a sequence of events and more like a landscape, vast, quiet, expansive beyond ordinary imagination. Millions of years compress into gentle transitions. A forest thins, a spine curves, a hand steadies around stone, a flame flickers against night. None of these moments announce themselves as historic. They unfold without urgency, guided by conditions and chance. If you imagine time not as a ticking clock but as a wide river, evolution becomes its slow current. It does not rush, it does not hesitate, it simply moves. Along its banks, species emerge, adapt, and sometimes fade. Humanity is one pattern within that flow. The earliest primates move through trees without knowing that their descendants will one day walk upright. Early hominins step onto open ground, unaware that their posture will shape distant futures. There is no foresight in evolution, only response, only adjustment. You might picture sediment settling at the bottom of a still lake. Grain by grain, layer upon layer, the accumulation is almost invisible in the moment. Yet over time, those layers form stone. So too does evolution accumulate through small genetic variations, filtered gently by environment. Nothing in this process demands perfection. Traits persist, not because they are ideal in some abstract sense, but because they function well enough within specific contexts. When circumstances change, the criteria shift. Life adapts again. Consider how subtle many of these shifts are. A slightly different angle in the pelvis, a minor change in tooth enamel thickness, a small variation in pigmentation. None of these alone transforms a species. Together, across generations, they shape identity. There is a comfort in recognizing that evolution is not a ladder, but a branching tree. No species stands at the top. Each occupies its own place within the web of life. Humans are not separate from nature's processes. You are one expression of them. As you rest now, your breathing steady, you participate in rhythms older than language. The inhale and exhale that sustain you echo patterns shared by countless organisms across time. Oxygen flows through your lungs, much as it flowed through ancient ancestors. The earth itself has changed alongside life. Continents drift, climates warm and cool, ice sheets advance and retreat. These planetary movements provide the stage upon which evolution unfolds. They are neither benevolent nor hostile, simply dynamic. When you think of deep time, it may feel overwhelming at first. Millions of years stretch beyond ordinary comprehension, yet you do not need to grasp it fully. Let it exist as a gentle awareness, like the horizon at dusk. In that horizon, you can sense how recent much of human history truly is. Agriculture spans only a small fraction of our species' existence. Written language occupies an even smaller slice. Modern technology appears in the final breath of a vast timeline. And yet, these recent developments feel enormous because they shape your daily experience. Evolution, however, reminds you that change has always been constant. The pace may vary, but transformation is woven into existence. There is no single destiny toward which evolution aims. It does not plan cities or civilizations. It responds to conditions. The outcomes emerge from countless interactions between genes, environments, and behaviors. You might imagine standing on a cliff overlooking a valley carved over millennia. The rock face reveals layers of sediment, each representing an era. Your presence atop that cliff is part of the same story. The past is not separate from you, it supports you. When scientists reconstruct evolutionary history, they piece together fragments, fossils, genetic sequences, artifacts. Each fragment offers a glimpse. The full picture remains expansive and open-ended. Discovery continues. In recognizing this openness, you can let go of any sense that the story must resolve neatly. Evolution has no final chapter. It is an ongoing process, adapting and reshaping life in response to shifting circumstances. There is something deeply calming about this perspective. Life persists, not through sudden leaps, but through quiet resilience. Through countless small adjustments, organisms endure. Your own body reflects this endurance. Bones balanced by gravity, muscles responding to movement, neural circuits adapting through experience. You are both ancient and present, shaped by deep time, yet fully here in this moment. As you allow your thoughts to slow, imagine the arc of evolution as a long, steady breath. It begins far beyond memory and extends beyond sight. You exist within that breath, neither its beginning nor its end. Nothing rushed, nothing forced, only life adjusting, breathing, continuing. As this journey gently comes to a close, notice how wide and still the world feels. So many generations unfolding quietly, whether we see them or not. You don't need to keep their names or timelines. They've already done their work. If you enjoy these slow explorations, you can support the channel in any small way that feels natural, so others can find this calm too. But right now, there is nothing to decide and nowhere to go. Let your thoughts soften, your muscles relax, and the night carry you onward, one peaceful breath at a time.